Alrighty, welcome back everyone. 皆さんおかえりなさい。今日は260日目です。It is day 260. We have a leap day from our current unit. So tomorrow is our level up day. Today looks like probably going to be our new set of stuff. 84 definitely sounds like maybe one or two leeches, but all all belonging to a single group. So we'll see how the new routine or new cycle works. Alright, let's get right into it. Shouldn't be too long today. This is usually the day where I do a burnout day, but let's just say we had some really fun discussions like 2 or 3 days in a row and kind of pushed way into the wee hours. Get right into it. All right. Study of mankind. This I didn't realize we had two. Wait, does this take on... Right, yesterday we had this in a different way. Maybe not. Yeah. Yep. How did it work for mankind? Oh, wait. Just kidding. I'm misreading. Mine is different. Like maybe
人類学
Injuikaku. I was thinking of something else. Oh, what do you call this? Maybe anthropology. Yeah, a good one. PD, we got the butt. Oh no. Oh no, wait. It was like yawa, right? It's probably like yawa yawashi. No. I mean like kawa kawashi. Oh no, wait, waka.
Waka wakashi.
Waka wakashi.
不可分
Gabum. Oh wait. Just kidding. What? Okay. I thought there might have been a pivot on that one. Okay. Whoops. Whoops. I type occasionally I type in pinyin. Occasionally. Heck. Um I feel like yep. And it's probably oh no, wait. Actually, I thought it was like oh there, Barry. Hello, hello. Early day to you. Huh. Really thought it was like abundant or something. Or am I thinking of you? I'm probably thinking of you. Huh. So he. How did he work? Oh, this is cover. Like a blanket cover. Whoa. Oh no. Is he? No. Forget. Forget, forgotten item. Wasuremono. Alright. Speaking of a forgotten item. Ooh. Does this end up being kunyomi? I don't remember. No. Oh wait. It does. It's wakame.
Wakame.
Or wakame. Either. Those pitch accents. It's the ingredient. Or I guess the seaweed. Alright. Okay. Ooh, I'm gonna say Emui.
Kemui.
Oh no. Oh no, the bow. I'm gonna say oh no. It's Kun Kun. It's the bow kun. What is the bow kun? I think. Pretty sure it's the Boku. And it could be Hone? Honeya? No. That sounds a little off. That's gonna be a womp womp. I'm not too sure. Something, yeah. What else? No, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, we're just gonna push this to the end. What? Huh. Is this not the... Is this not the same? It's stinky. I thought it was, weird. I thought it was something like Iki. Iki. Uh, what else could be? Oh, wait. It's probably Sa.
Muneyake.
Muneyake. Or, yes. What? Oh no. Just kidding. Heartburn.
瀕死
Inchi. Hmm. This is abundant. uh. Uh. Spell words. Or. Spell and say. It's like Hyo. Not thread and cell. Person. Oh no, wait. It might actually be. It's wakari. The I'm gonna move it. Hmong. What is Hmong? At least I think this is Umet. This is probably Umet. Look. Correct or authentic? Son of a Beast thing. Oh wait. Oh, what? Wakasha? No. Waka... No. No, right? No, that doesn't sound right. Huh. Oh, Waka. It's... I can't think of... Oh... Not tall or anything like that. What? Sha. Sha, I feel like I have... Oh, hold up. There's definitely... Oh, it's gotta be Waka. But... There's definitely a right thing. Wakamono.
Wakamono.
Nine? Okay. We're just using... That's perfect overlap. Perhaps. There's no way it's Kun. Okay. Three. No. Rat. It's more like distress. Or distressed. Oh, distressed. This one kind of sucks. Oma. At the mouth of the tree. Lies a stressed condor who appears to be in a coma. I don't know if you can be distressed while also being in a coma, but fine. Good enough. That one's really weak.
女子
Yoshi. Yoshi. Wait. Oh wait. Yes. I want to say it's probably Minoru.
実る
Okay.
可能性
可能性ね Huh, I'm a little weak on the se part. The gender thing. Okay, it's just a state. Okay, a possibility. I mean, that's fine.
焼ける
I get it. Okay. Crime and criminal are very similar for that character. How do I quake? In. Yikes. Heck. Contraction, no? Oh, no, wait. I'm pretty sure this is contraction. Dang it. Dang it. Maybe it's probably kanjiru. What? Dang it. Holland at the door. Oh, I mean, it could be. Oh, I really thought that was it. I really thought that was it. I don't really remember. Majiru. What does this mean? Definitely just to close something. So I guess. Tojiru.
閉じる
Hay bales. Oh, right. Spreading open over your toes. Make sure to close them up. I don't know how I feel about hay bales. Why did I choose hay bales? Oh, because of the toe thing? Yeah, toe. But it's not Yoshimeru. Even though they use Shimeru here. Shimeru and Shimaru. I need something even more for this. I think the hay bell thing doesn't work. Sometimes even Jesus requires to use his toes to close something. Actually, what is the... Yeah, it's hay, right? Oh, that's where the hay bells come from. Oh. Jesus requires to look out for his requires to make sure hay belts do not roll to close the hay bells, or they don't roll over his toes. Alright. That's where the hay comes from. I see. My yes are so disappointing. Oh no. Is this the I can't tell the difference between... We're gonna go with Kaishuigyo.
海水魚
Okay, Kaishuigyo. Or ocean fish, I suppose. You what? I'm gonna say it's maybe like son of a... I thought this might be what to turn into or change. I might be way off base here. Oh no, it's kind of like to change. Kai? Coal. No. Oh, actually, it might be coal. But this is more like to change in sense of renewing, right?
改まる
Aratamaru. I didn't write anything for this because we're relying on Atara. It's Kai. Dang. Kai. Okay. Be renewed. It's to change something into Arata. Hey, Gecko. Yeah, it has been a while. Did the summer fly? You hope it went well for you? Yeah. Summer went well. I'm still going on that. How are you doing? How was your summer? Be renewed is to change into Arata. What are we missing? Oh, hi. Hmm. Kayak was renewed to Arata for the Orgatma. This year. Okay. Direction. Direction.
履歴書
Direction. Oh, catching up. What is the Skippy on the rest of the summer? Right here, busy, but everything is good. Honestly, can't believe fall is already here. Let me not dwell on the quick passage of time too much before any existential crisis. I mean, one way to make the passage of time slow down is to dilate the details in that time. Perhaps it's interesting. Here's an interesting hot take. One way to dilate that time is to dwell on it. Not like the concept of the time passing by, but what was in that time. You know how they go, how the human memory goes. Time often is dilated and slows down when you appreciate what happened in that time, as opposed to generalizing and contracting that amount of time. Usually. As I stare blankly at this. Nodo? Probably like Nodo Ame.
のど飴
Oh, it could be like... No. 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 What the... Thinking of some outrageous things. Hold up. Something like that. Tatsuiri. Oh man. Like something like Tachi. Like a change. With... I feel like it's something like that. I'm pretty sure. Hold up. We got. It's not the shogun. It's the king, right? So it's probably Tachiri. Tachiri. Kinshi.
立ち入り禁止
Tachiri Kinshi. You keep hearing it gets worse with age, so yeah, you might want to try to employ some active techniques to make sure it doesn't go too fast or doesn't feel like it anyway. Yeah, it does. It most certainly. I forgot what our relative age is, Gecko. I guess we're relatively the similar age. Yeah, it does. Time gets time compression happens more and more as or at least in my opinion. Whether subconsciously or consciously, time feels shortened because we are responsible, at least in my opinion, we are responsible for making value of those times. So as our memories start to compress, it feels like time has truncated, right? Time gets shorter and shorter. So inherently as we get older, right, there's that whole you can't remember as much. It's more like we remember pretty much just very similar amounts throughout our lives. It's just we have far more things to remember. And one thing that technology brings is a great way to, at least if we don't emotionally or literally remember those things in our minds, we can build legacy. And that's what happens when we get older, right? Or that's usually one of the consistencies in adult aging, which is you enter a phase of legacy building with your child as well, you know, your child also being a part of legacy building. So in order to do that, providing and investing more techniques into actualizing most of your legacies can dilate that time. And then obviously finding some emotional closure in the idea that you don't have to remember everything to appreciate that lots have happened in a shortened amount of time, or in a subjectively shortened amount of time. That was one of the things that still held up over the years. Like when I was 20 and in psychology, one of the consistencies in adulthood, despite the internet and all of technology giving a breadth of ways to record your legacy and build legacy, time still obviously doesn't emotionally dilate with aging mind, because the volume becomes so incredibly big that one is almost forced to counter it with equally higher quality shortened timed events. So things that feel more like a combination of things, like finishing a book, but when you think back, it almost feels like you started the book and then you finished the book, punctuated with some, you know, key events in the book. But at the same time, you could literally read the book, record that you literally read the book, like journal, like a book club, or reviewing the book. Had like book clubs where you meet once a week to talk about the book per chapter, dilates the amount of time when you reflect upon it. So there are more memories made and reinforced during the book. But if you like read the book and you think of how you started and finished it, then all that time in between feels like it's relatively lost because you don't remember anything in between. Yeah, and it happens more and more because you do more and more and you have to remember more and more. So it's kind of like, where did the childhood go? Well, you don't know because it's gone. Like, what did I do when I was 5 years and 15 days old? I don't know. And that gives you that subjective feeling that it's gone. So one way a lot of times subjectively to find closure and whatnot is to say, well, I was 5 once. So generally, what did I use? The things I do remember when I was 5 years old, how many times can I iterate upon it when I'm 40? And that gives that 5-year life, that one event, more time in your present event. And I feel like that's one of those things that can provide a lot of legacy for anyone who starts panicking about how time is shortened and whatnot. So keeping many of your selective memories from a bygone time relevant to your existing time is one that is incredibly makes your life, the time in the prior, dilate. And that one of the things is being a father, obviously, having a child. Then you revisit and retrace a lot of your old events. What about me? Anything about your summer that stands out that you feel like sharing? Obviously I'm gonna deploy recency. For this, 3 days ago, I had a maybe like 1 in a billion odd encounter with a Chinese person who's from the Fujian province, where my parents originated from. And it was probably it's the first time in my life meeting someone who could understand my dialect outside of my immediate environment that's not in the United States. So there's that. And we're talking about like I'm sure you can appreciate the idea that finding a mainland Chinese person on this side of the internet, while also on Twitch, who happens to also be Chinese, culturally speaking, and then me being an ABC, American-born Chinese, who happens to also decided to stream on Twitch and YouTube, you know, of a minority of a minority of a minority, meeting another minority of a minority. That was very breath of fresh air. I had a lot of questions and whatnot. That person entertained quite a lot of it. There were things that was erroneously, or you could kind of say erroneously, cleared up, or like, not erroneously, it was erroneous in the way that the limited knowledge could only support that type of interpretation, but it was kind of cleared up with conversation with the person. The person spoke English. That's still a minority, and they were typing in English, which is a minority of minority. And they happen to be someone who works in the art industry in China. And obviously, I didn't want to presume, but I did inquire, and it confirmed that that is also a minority of a minority, because art industry is not that pragmatic, and it's an extracurricular or an alt career, at least from how my parents are representative of my exposure to Chinese culture, right? Doing this is a minority of minorities. Creating art, talking about subjectivity, right? Closure, mental health, that type of thing is incredibly personal, right? It's personal in a pragmatic society, or a projected pragmatic society. Obviously, I am not only I am my parents' child, and I was born and raised in the United States. So my appreciation to meet someone who quite literally grew and they were born and raised and still their homebody, so they lived, born, raised, and still in the place that they have gone. It was a breath of fresh air to be able to use a common language, which was English. And despite that, I was able to talk in Fujian dialect. And they said something that gave me a lot of new information. Like, they said I had an accent. So apparently what I thought were 2 dialects from the Fujian province may actually be 2 accents of the Fujian dialect. And the thing that other people are referring to as the Hokkien dialect is not the same thing as maybe the Hokkien accent in the Fujian province. So it was there's so many questions, obviously, right? There's so many questions, And that's probably one of the highlights in the last summer. It actually happened 3 days ago within the week. So here's another recent one. I haven't shared this yet in the next couple days, but I also talked about a video comment. Like, I don't get a lot of video comments. So every time a video comment comes up, I can spend like hours replying to it and explaining things and whatnot, because we're still in that mode where whoever has an open generosity, you know, I reflect in the generosity. And this time, this person actually emailed me because I recognize it. I recognize it from the video comment. And this person is making a game that's going to be released in November this year. And it's a Japanese language learning game. So in the next week, before the end of this month, because next month is Inktober, so we draw all next month, we're going to go and look at that game. It's interesting. I have a lot of... When this person made a video comment, when I take a look at people's channels all the time. Like when you make a video comment, I look at your channel, right? And they already released a short about the game, so I kind of know a little bit about it. We're gonna be doing that in the next week. Generosity, you know, generosity meets generosity. I hope to make magic happen, right? And that sounds like you just love how much language and dialects can bring people together and help create connections, even when it's just for a moment. Indeed. So like this person's video comment was really short. They asked in the WaniKani, this is related to WaniKani, like it was on my day 249, so it's not that far away. It was my 249, so it was 11 days, right? 11 days. They asked, oh, like, have you used any other, right, your FAQs, have you used any other games or apps for language learning? And well, it's been almost 2 years, so we did do quite a lot when in retrospect. So it's humbling but also sobering when someone asks you something and then you use all your effort to answer. This is related to your first your first sentiments about truncated timelines. So instead, when someone asks a question, I try to answer it to the fullest of my extent, and it turns out we did quite a lot, right? Wherever we left off in Duolingo Japanese was relevant because they actually mentioned Duolingo, like other apps like Duolingo, and then they said games. So we did do So to Speak and Shashinko, and we're still keeping up with Wagotabi. So sure enough, that was probably what was relevant. And I got to tell them like, okay, well, the most recent wrap up was day 300, day 200, day 300 on Duolingo Japanese, day 200 on WaniKani. Those are and obviously I'm answering your question from before. This is what happened in the summer, right? We did the wrap up, post 300 Duolingo Japanese, and then the 200 wrap up for WaniKani. And then I also got to mention the companion piece, which is Hanzi Hero, which we did 200, the 200 review. And then So to Speak was within the summer, so while you were away. And Wagotabi's Steam launch happened also. So all this stuff was mentioned in that one moment, right? In that one moment. And sure enough, this person is going to release their game. After I looked at their like shorts, I anticipated it to some extent. That was probably why they asked the question. Sometimes I do enjoy, not that it might sound a little creepy, I suppose. I'm not sure if people find this normalized yet, but usually when someone makes a comment and I have all the time in the world, or I feel like I have time that I can invest in people. If you make a video comment, I'm gonna look at your channel, and if you publish something, it gets me to know you, right? Sometimes I feel maybe it can be something that I can see that maybe someone else can't, and that was kind of nice. It was kind of nice that it worked out. Because my first thought was, well, that's an interesting question. Legitimately, when I read the video comment, I'm like, this person said games and apps. They didn't say resources, right? Like one of the distinctions between a language learner and a designer, some sort of software designer, is that they have very particular word choices. And one of them is definitely the word resources as opposed to games and apps. And we're going to do that. We'll see what happens. Pretty neat. Oh, and so to answer a lot of the questions and whatnot. Hopefully you had something similar, like I bet your daughter, you have quite a lot of, obviously this is personal, I bet you have a lot of family milestones that occurred in the summer and whatnot. Looking forward to seeing you play. I must say, playing language learning games, especially Japanese, is something you really wish you could find some more time to do. Time, always time. Yes, indeed. Well, in 3 years, I hope you hit the absolute madman of a windfall, and then we can enjoy having time to do that. But your time is also built of many things. Your family, right? You have an immediate family. I can only imagine what your job's like. If I thought about it, like if the world was a little bit different, let's say our situation was a little different and I did have a job, then I'd probably spend most of my time talking about my job. So despite having like the grass is greener potentially, or what I'm sharing, I would probably equally be as passionate, if not also motivated, to talk about my job. Like that's the underlying underlying thing here. If it's not going for envy or jealousy, but more for understanding that whatever the situation is, being appreciative and enthusiastic and expressing it to the best of your ability often makes it feel like it's something to be desired. At the same time, I think my primary intent is that your time, and always time must be also fantastically filled with great things to appreciate. So while it might not be language learning games, perhaps it's something else, Interestingly enough. Like, were there any particular milestones in your brisk 35 years of life, or in the last summer? I would love to hear some things. I think talking about it, in my opinion, once again, to reiterate, makes the time feel incredibly meaningful, so that time no longer feels short, but ever present. And then sharing that time makes other people keep track of your time. Like, call it like a multiplier, like a game multiplier. The more you can enthusiastically impress upon other people how you use your time, they multiply their time as well as multiply the usefulness of your time. So that's kind of why studying Japanese online and doing this is what gets me up each day, because I'm multiplying the value of my time, which is fantastic. It's kind of like a game. Obviously, don't min-maxing this stuff can really drive someone into despair, but with like an ounce in moderation and balance, it's always nice. Like if you share, every time you share your story, lack of a better word, every time you share your story, you're multiplying the impact of that time that you have spent. No major milestones, but still plenty of good memories of the summer. For example, you say that to me. There aren't many things that beat playing in the pool with your kid on a hot summer weekend. I haven't ever been to a pool in a long while. How is the pool life in oh, wait, by the way, I've recently met his name or her name is Xing Xing. She is, I think she is a Dutch transplant in Australia, currently engaged with a Vietnamese person. And I have a question for you. Are you Northern Dutch, Belgium, or Southern Belgium? I did bring you up like in directly because the last time I was in that geographical area, because Xing Xing mentioned we were talking about accents yesterday. A conversation came up because you're the closest thing that I know a lot of details about, that or sufficient details to relate to the general area. So Xing Xing made a comment about they found northern Belgians charming, but I shared that you know French, so you were likely Southern Belgium according to Xing Xing. So you're Southern Belgian, French-speaking region, but you do know some Dutch from school and still use. Okay. Yeah, that checks out. Yeah, Xing Xing was explaining to me the relations between the regions. So that means you gotta crack a joke or something. I'm kidding. But yeah, I was gonna say like, oh, wouldn't this be a time? It's a coincidence that of all this time, it was recent. It was like yesterday. If the two of you were exchanging conversation, it would be interesting to see how a former Dutch, now in Australia, talk with a Belgian that is not from the region that they have more exposure. Things like that. But you know, dilating time, you know. I basically shared whatever I could that I recall about our conversation prior. Yeah. Kinda neat how everything just connects, you know? Met a couple other peeps. There's a potentially, I'm gonna say, British-esque person who is starting their university life in possibly Hong Kong, and they're like adjusting to the verbal and non-verbal dynamics of having 5 or 6 roommates, one of which is Korean and 5 are Cantonese speakers. Hong Kong, probably. And we talked about things like dieting, heart health, kind of your stuff that we've talked before about as well. And largely we're just focusing on socialization and communication skills, really, and cultural exchange. But there was also that. Mika was the handle name. Yeah. You say beyond the language, culturally, there's quite a distinction between northern and southern parts, although, of course, there is some amount of national identity too. I see. You love international peoples, for lack of a better term. They usually have a good amount of curiosity and open-mindedness. I believe so too. And the person that I've met, when they're not literally international, but oftentimes people who are international, like they participate in openly international conversations, they tend to also have a good amount of curiosity and open-mindedness. Like, for example, that Fujian example, being international is being on the Americanized internet. Like, for example, if you're, say, without going into too much controversy, if you're like from Russia or China, and you happen upon the Amazon and Google run world of the Americanized internet, that would be considered someone who has an international appeal, like someone who engages and interacts internationally, right? Because oftentimes closed networks tend to be the preferred thing, and they would be international in the sense that they are minorities, individuals who are curious, but the surrounding environment that they have do not participate in that. And I typically ask them these questions in order to confirm my biases, because it is very common for individuals who participate in a minority activity to not be reflexive of the environment around them. So the person that I met from Fujian, they are in art, right? No, their people around them do not know what, like, participate in Twitch activities or anything like that. And yes, it can be very isolating from this. So I got enough of an impression. And again, we have to also keep in mind that there's a lot of self-selection. I appear differently. I'm studying a different language, and most of my content is like have an international bent to it. So we also have to keep in mind of that too. And you're from Belgium, so so far the ones that I communicate with most, you know, like, I don't want to be a little bit deterministic, but generally when there are many coincidences on top of each other, it's not uncommon that we're having this discussion, and most people we interact with that we enjoy are also the things that happen, because that's kind of how they self-select themselves as well. Like, many of the things I say now a lot of individuals, at least even from the United States, will find it very indifferent. They would be indifferent to what I'm saying because it's not attractive. It's not very poignant in a way. Like, I kid you not, the people that the other types of groups that I interact with, open-mindedness is exhausting. Like, what I mean by that is being curious and open-minded can lead to many dead ends, right? Or what the opposing mindset would be. They would lead to dead ends, waste of effort, exhaustive, and miscellaneous. So I tend to find that is what's worth the journey. When you have someone who's curious and open-mindedness, most things are taken to a place of significance between the individuals, right? But when you have someone who is preferably efficient and optimized in their way, then oftentimes the type of dialogue and conversation stays within that, like, smaller sphere. However, if you meet another person that selectively stays in that small sphere, then you've met someone who would occupy your time really well and efficiently. But for myself, digressions, curiosities, thinking about those things, it should, in my opinion, the company that I keep would wildly be more interesting than saying things like, well, I learned more kanji over the summer, Gecko. The number is going up. Is your number going up? You know, I could start preparing for the JLPT, you know, in the box things, right? And that would limit the amount of discussion. But that doesn't mean it's bad or good. A lot of times, I feel like on the internet, the algorithm-based type of normalized behavior, the most consistent type of behavior is one of efficiency and optimization. So when someone asks you a question, they're looking for a specific answer, not what type of specific answer. And then when they ask a question, they're asking a very specific question as opposed to asking an open-ended question. And then when they ask an open-ended question, they don't typically wait for the response because they're waiting for a specific response. You know, that type of thing. I think that still is 9 out of 10 times. Obviously, you and I wouldn't be having this solo conversation if it was a trendy thing. I would run out of time, as you said. Time. These things take a lot of time, so they have scalability issues, right? And the internet is very predicated on optimization. So when someone says hi, you say hi back. That's efficiency. That's people's comfort zone. From YouTube analytics and such, are your viewers from all over the world, or is it still mostly Western culture countries? So here's the thing about analytics, especially in the United States. It's probably even more bias in Europe. So analytics, it's wonderful to have analytics, but unfortunately in the world we live today, privacy is king, right? People like their private nature, and all due respect, right? Privacy. So analytics aren't reliable, nor is it sufficient to display anything nowadays, because you need consent for the analytics. So as much as I would say this platform is sufficient to provide analytics for someone who is a selective small time person, even I would say hundreds of thousands of people being online, like if you have like 100,000 subscribers, the analytics would not be sufficient to portray any information. With that in mind, most people are from the United States, because in my opinion, a factor that really affects the transparency of the analytics is the country that you're coming from, or the country that you're from, and the culture that's involved. Most of the time, the vast majority of the information is considered privacy locked. So the analytics don't actually log those things as per the YouTube agreements and whatnot. So in fact, I would go a little bit further and presume that the reason why it's mostly the United States, despite I don't actually have, like, most people I interact with aren't from the United States, is that when you think of account creation and the amount of disposable accounts and like how culture interacts with the internet, United States, the time frame and whatnot, most people probably are less diligent about that, like keeping privacy and whatnot, by default. But if they were raised to understand that their location or statistics can be turned off, then I would say YouTube analytics are out the window, unless you have like a sample size of 10 million or 15 million, or an actual community that has like a loyalty fan base for revealing their location. So what I'm saying is, the numbers don't add up ever. So I would say, if I said most of my analytics say it's coming from Western culture, it doesn't inform you on anything. Yeah. And by the way, Gecko, I haven't considered those parameters either until I started looking at the analytics on YouTube, right? On Twitch, it's done slightly different, but it's still, on Twitch, there's a lot of live, like, it's a privacy difference between Twitch and YouTube. And then how the Twitch culture and the YouTube culture have different transparencies. YouTube culture and those internationally who interact with YouTube culture is far more privacy forward, and that's why as much as I enjoy analytics, you need an incredibly large sample size, and even then you have to take into consideration the confounded nature of selection bias on accessibility of that data. And obviously I raise these parameters because I worked in science and I worked in bioinformatics. So typically when I look at analytics, you know, how people, we talked about research and stuff quite a lot, or statistics and whatnot. And when someone comes to me and say like, oh yeah, did you know this is how you get clicks and subscriptions, this is what's trending and stuff based on this type of statistics, it's everywhere now, right? However, for me, whenever I look at my analytics and stuff, I think about the limitations of the analytics first. Like the reliability of the source of the material, like the collection procedure, the methodology of how the parameters work tells you about its limitations. So I typically start with the limitations before the analytics. So for now, I would say the vast majority of people are indeed from North America. In fact, almost exclusively anyone who have disclosed their names, like their tag names, there's a really interesting indicator of whether you know or not that they disclose. You get notified if they subscribe to you because their information is public. Their channel name is, their channel and avatar stuff is public. You'll get a notification of the subscription. If it's private, you don't get a notification. The number might go up, but the you know, you're not, they don't disclose to you or raise awareness. And that is like a personal, that's a personal choice, right? It's a liberty that was raised towards Google, against Google, and maybe even for Google. And one of the other things that happen a lot is that despite all the people might be from North America, I would argue there's a chance that's still true, and it's an underestimate, because lurker communities, when you have the internet, parasocial relationship is the most predominant type of interaction nowadays online. So typically, yes, being private and not being knowing that the other person doesn't know that you subscribed or participate is a cultural norm on YouTube. It's even more so on YouTube. It's even more so on Twitch than is YouTube. But however, Twitch has a celebratory nature towards subscriptions and like, you know, being notice me situation. But YouTube is not. The less you get noticed, the more likely that you're among the majority. So the majority of users like to maintain their parasocial relationships. So I would say, like, on and off, there's been a net of more than 2,000, 3,000 subscriptions, off and on, and you can see that this channel has less than 1,000 subscriptions, right? But the net in and up, you know, leaving and going has crossed 3,000. But I've only received, I actually track this myself by compressing my email notifications, and of the current 3,000-ish that came and gone back and forth, I've got notifications for like 200 of them. So if you're thinking about it in that way, like mechanically how you sieve through that, less than 10, I would say probably less than 10 to 15% actually even disclose, or maybe not even aware that they disclose their geography, their channel name, and maybe some data about them that they might volunteer. You actually have to complete surveys and fill in your contact information and then know that you can disclose them in order to have analytics, like age groups, for example. I can tell you now, it's exactly the age group that you think. 100% of the people that is among the subscribers and viewers and stuff, there's only one age group, one gender, and one region that actually even have statistics on it, like even counts of it. And that's in their 20s, male, United States. But I don't think that is because they are consciously thinking that. that they're freely giving that information for analytics. It's that they probably don't know it's on by default, because I think the vast majority of people, like over 80% now, especially on YouTube and Twitch, parasocial. So most of the stuff is anonymous, and that is that's the other side of the coin. I've talked about this quite a lot before, when people talk about like privacy issues and like tracking. It's difficult for me to suggest a controversial take on this, which is fairly controversial. I think it's a balance. The conveniences that people want with statistics and the accuracies that they want for statistics, they are also the people who don't want to be part of that statistics. And because that number is growing, most statistics, especially automated statistics now, are less and less meaningful because people want the cake and eat it. That's where I pivot to AI and machine learning. AI, machine learning are based on privacy concerns, because accessibility to that data and inclusion of that data is what creates statistical accuracy, right? So nowadays you have people who build their entire career on statistics that have a hypocritical and paradoxical relationship with its accuracy. So is my statistics telling me I only appeal to people in their 20s, and I should target people in their 20s who are male from the United States? My actual anecdotal experience is I have zero experience with that. In fact, the vast majority of people that I meet are people who are between the ages of 16 to 25 or lower. It's actually like 16 to the age of 20, international males. And then the people that are from North America and stuff, they are females. And yet my statistics share nothing of that because of privacy. And that's perfectly fine. Like, it's respectful, right? It's respect. But the analytics that also means that the analytics are not important. As in, like, they are erroneously. What they can do is they can tell you opportunities that you can further your engagement. But you have to be well cognizant of doing your own meta collection, right? Your meta collection is based on your experience. So for the most part, actually, most people I talk to are not male. They tend to be like either ambiguous, like in terms of like their portrayal, and talking about topics that aren't like oriented towards that. So it's a give or take. That's one of the things. And someone has asked me before this about privacy concerns and whatnot. I don't have immediate family members, right? I don't have a child. I don't have things that really confine me to my privacy. And my life has been quite lucky. I own my ups and downs most of my life. So for that convenience, I don't mind openly disclosing things I already am very comfortable in sharing. So, right, like I'm male, I'm 38, I'm from the United States, my parents are from China, right? Those things, but it is not the incredibly sobering and humbling thoughts, at least in my opinion, anecdotally, is that analytics tell you potential targets of expansion. They fail to ever be relatively or standardized to be informative anymore. And if you have millions and tens of millions, you might be saying, well, okay, the sample size is big enough now. Now you might have a normal distribution. Not when you're talking about the internet anymore. The internet has an echo chamber. It is an algorithm-based normalized behavior. So not only would I make an argument that the analytics are even further skewed people who base their entire targeting strategy and marketing strategy on those analytics will also represent that echo chamber. So like that's what drives the engine, right? So now when you think about it, why do content look like it's forming a singularity or it has a specific trend all the time? It's because the trend is due, in my opinion, due to self-selected bias analytics that are feeding itself. So that's what happens when statistics go off the rail. There's no transparency and there's no double blindness. There's no double blindness trust in analytics. And that's one of the biggest banes in scientific research, double blind. Holding the golden standard for double blind and mutual trust and respect. Like that, one thing that I typically bring up is like genetic testing with origins and stuff. It's not quite, I don't know the inner workings of how they do those things, but even considering that, remember that company, that particular company that was bailed out recently, it's a tech company, and the way they sieve data is completely pre-selected and voluntary. So having the information that they're correlating and whatnot, all of that is up for statistical bias. Yeah, it's something I've considered quite a lot when people come to come at me and say, well, this is what the successful people do. It's like, I know that is what the successful people do, because they use self-feeding statistics. No matter how wonderful or accurate or trend or self-fulfilling the statistics are, if there's a selection bias, on it, it only exaggerates the selection bias. So you can still make it work. It's very functional. It's, in my opinion, it's just not accurate. And sometimes I kind of like accurate data, but experience goes a long way. That's why I often think that there's a difference between someone who builds their products and builds their career on experience, like 80% experience versus 20% automation and optimization, because automation optimization's quality is based on the selection. And rough. I've thought about this topic for a very long time, but I didn't want to make this I didn't want to become a content creator based on trying to compete with the, thousands of people who try to disentangle analytics and find pragmatic uses for analytics, when my first step is I'm scratching my brain and having a midlife crisis on what happens if I ever use a selectively biased analytic system, because it also deals with the availability of data. Yeah, there's just not a great availability of data. Really cool to learn about this. Here in Europe, YouTube, Google, and all those American tech giants have a reputation for being terrible with privacy, but I guess that's probably come a long way. Yes. It has changed dramatically, and that's one of the double edges. So at the double edge is that the people who are using the platforms also do not have that use case, right? Terrible with privacy. Remember that all your conveniences, right? This is like the double edge, right? The paradox of data collection. If you want to have more accurate targeted data that represents and accurately reflects the all-encompassed things, the people who are in charge with the data also has a moral and ethical they need moral and ethical trust, mutual trust, in order to handle that data. But the terrible privacy controversy is that they don't necessarily have terrible privacy. It's the use of that information that makes it an intrusion of privacy, in my opinion, because in order to serve you things for the convenience that you're taking advantage of, you have to reveal that info in order for their products to be efficient. But the handlers of the information are potentially negligibly, or not negligibly, negligent in how they profiteer off of that. So there's no mutual respect, right? Like, hey, I'll give you my data. Everyone will agree to give you their data in order for you to have our best interest in mind, as opposed to profiteering, right? Strictly profiteering. So now, when someone says, oh man, these new like algorithms, oh, it's just garbage, it's because it's a double edge. You are also not providing any information to improve the algorithm. So it's a vicious cycle. In one, people want to see the continued optimization, benefits, and accuracy of technology, but the technology does not have an accurate reflection and statistical pool of information to develop for that. So we're going backwards. We're not necessarily going backwards as in a bad way. We're finding, in my opinion, the world now is finding a balance between how much information you are willing to give in order to support a technology that could be used for profiteering. So one has to trust the entity with your information in order for them to also produce technology that is accurate based on its sample. So now this is where I feel like this is kind of the money situation. When someone says, oh, well, they understand money, you just save money in order to make more money or something. That's not the whole truth. Like, sometimes the truth is you need money to make money, and then you have to be on the edge of not having money in order to have more money. That kind of situation. In this case, it's a sacrifice of privacy will increase the inherent accuracy of the tech giants' technologies, but you are also trusting them from not abusing that privilege, right? And then in reverse, the tech giants have to trust the users that they won't abandon them because they're using their information. So now we have a problem here. It's whoever wins. So if you hide behind the code of privacy, which I completely respect people who want to keep their privacy, right? Those individuals are also not entitled to having technology that serves their convenience, because they are no longer part of the pool. It's a diffusion of responsibility. You're saying your information stays private, and your neighbor is the one to take the sacrifice in order to feed the giants representative data in order to do something with it. Well, the likelihood is, if you're part of a class of people, like a group of people who feel statistical behavioral requirements that would stay private, your neighbors who don't are the ones that are going to be the target audience for marketing and technology. So whenever you go and buy something like a smart device and you're like wondering, oh, I like my privacy, but hey, this product, it really sucks. It just doesn't know anything about what I want. It's like, well, yes, because you're not part of the data set. Right? So hear me out. I'm not saying someone is, I'm trying to be very level-headed about this. You have the right to your privacy, but you also don't have the right to complain about data that doesn't include your information. That's the thing, right? Like, think about it this way. Let's just use video games or WaniKani, for example. An app is designed for people who demand it, right? They are designed based on who openly demand things by sharing their public information. A desire is sharing something that they have, kind of like targeted ads. But if you choose privacy and you self-select so strong with a large group that all choose privacy, that also means that none of that information is available. So when you see a product that targets something and you go and complain about the absence of something that's desirable among a group, one has to understand that privacy means that no one knows. That's kind of, and I will take it back to communication. How smart you are, how talented you are, how like good you are with like past events, how clean your history is, it has to be public information before people actually know what it is. And with that public accessibility comes the people who use that information, and you have to trust them, unfortunately, right? So like you go around saying you're the best person, but you never show any of your private information because you think privacy is number one, then no one will know. That's part of communication. And tech designs and tech giants design based on statistics now. Maybe in another 5 or 6 years, it will be some sort of like behind the doors, double blind confidentiality type of exchange of information, double encrypted, but distributed. That'd be cool. I think that is the middle ground where somehow privacy information goes through a mixer. So then it becomes double blind in the future. This will become like maybe a universal standard that comes out of Europe and then expands to the United States or something, where information is exchanged, but they go through a mixer, a double blind mixer. Basically, you get the analytics like, oh, okay, there's 30% of my 30% of my viewership are males between the age of 25 and 35. It's like, that's great, but I don't know anything, like I can't identify who they are, right? So then there's like a double blind, like a handler mixing situation where it feels like you're not being invaded privacy wise, like your email address is not associated with your name, which is not associated with your channel, that type of thing, but it still provides a default consensus to give data. But in the way we are now is it's kind of an all or none situation. So when I talk about how the algorithm is kind of going to the crapper, right? I'm not talking about it from the perspective of like how you can profiteer off of it or how it caters to you or something. That I'm largely talking about how the data is collected in order to fuel the algorithm. Like it's no longer that transparent. In fact, it's to the point where people who like their parasocial relationships and the privacy is the privacy, they also know how to circumvent all of that now. Like VPNs, IP masking, double proxies. I'm naming jargon because I have no idea what all of that stuff means. But I can tell you that industry is so much lucrative for IT projects and whatnot. It's so much more lucrative now than it's ever been as a way to demonstrate its trendiness. In fact, if you're an investor diversifying into cryptography and certain IT services that deal with masking and preserving any leakage of your information is kind of the gold standard right now. And in my opinion, that also means you have to understand that means anything that's built upon that information becomes less and less reliable. So the people who do, though, the behavior, we're talking about the behavior of people. So the collective groups that are represented in the data set, most products will be targeting them. So it's kind of like saying you don't like this popular music because the people, if you look inside and look at your behavioral understanding and how willingness of a particular model to be represented in the data set, then if it's low in the data set, then obviously that type of thing is not targeted. So it's like, if you don't like popular music, then most music isn't to your liking. at the moment, because poppy music is not a genre but a category that is most represented in a data set, right? This is before the internet and automation and algorithm. What is very popular is most represented in the pool. So despite people complaining about their representation, I think one of the really rough parts is like language learning. We'll talk about language learning instead, because this is a language learning channel right now. Immersion only learning. I am not in the data set. So I'm going to use myself as an example because that's a good way to demonstrate that I'm also talking about myself. I don't go around saying, like, writing and the people that I associate with, that I think about, rarely ever say things like only immerse, only use SRS, only. So that data, even if it's a minority opinion, I expect that that's not even represented most of the time, because algorithms are based on selection. So the loudest, the most resonant, the most influential and publicly loud things get represented. And sometimes it can even mask majority behavior, because what is not there is also not communicated anymore on the online. So you could have situations where, oh man, this game is so bad. Meanwhile, 80% of the players are perfectly content with it. They just don't like voicing their opinions because of privacy concerns. Right? And I can tell you, if you're interested in smaller projects like indie devs and stuff, like, or like small apps, the majority tends to say nothing, in my opinion, in those things. It is through solicitation that you hope to find a representative who can create, for lack of a better word, an echo chamber that represents a product, and that echo chamber fosters a niche following that allows indie developers to break out, right? Team Cherry would be a great example with Silksong, right? And that's kind of what I notice, in my opinion, to explain why you can have products that are so phenomenally viewed, but so underrepresentative of something as a whole in the bigger scheme of things. So that's where the internet fosters its echo chambers. Echo chambers are the gold standard for the internet, and privacy prevents any form of distillation of echo chambers, because privacy allows you to echo without noise. So all of this is still connected. I wish I could. Some part of me wants to like just go dark and write a book and then get crucified and then end my career kind of. No, I'm kidding, of course. I'm over exaggerating, but this stuff has gone on in my head for so long, and I don't share most of that because I think it's not great for the algorithm. It's a stab against privacy. So privacy can get you into hot water, and I totally respect people wanting their privacy. I want to raise some considerations of what happens when you become or promote and convince other people that that is their choice as well. That's kind of like voting. If you never, like, voting is a great example of how you can meet a middle ground between privacy and contributing your data, right? Because I think that's where the future may go, where there's a blindedness when you provide the information, kind of like voting, in an election situation. Interesting enough, you're technically a YouTuber now. Oh, really? One of your personal projects during the summer was having fun experimenting AI music creation. Fair enough. Was pretty happy with the results, so after checking everything was okay regarding rights and such, you started posting the music on YouTube, mostly to share with friends and family for now. So you're just telling me I can't see this, I can't listen to this music? Maybe soon I can get a sample. Privacy is a topic you often deal with on the IT projects you work on. Fair enough. There's no perfect answer, but pseudonymization is usually a good compromise. Yep, exactly. I think mixing, traffic mixing is. I don't have like technical words for this, and for me, I think of it more like a cipher, right? So when you input, when you know when information is given to B, it's gone through a mixer, right? So then the mixer comes back or goes back here, where what happens is then you do eventually collect all the data, but it's like there's a lack of a trace, or lack of a or harder to trace. And then things would be stored this way in the future, as opposed to, you know, all the hacks, right? Whenever we talk about hacking, there's always some database somewhere where everything is ordered in a manner that is compromising, right? It can compromise the user. So often, and this requires a lot of power. Like, what I mean by power is like having a complex mixer in between information and then reassembling the information so that it is no longer like it is harder to track, or this stuff is diminished return for businesses, in my opinion, or for large scale operations. And it benefits the individual and can create trust between A and B, in my opinion. I'm just drawing random arrows now as I'm talking. But generally speaking, I think some way to blind the collection of the data, like the ultimate recipient of the data and then the provider of the data, is a great compromise. Well, you can check it out. It's publicly available. Oh, okay. You just don't want you to feel like you're pushing something or self-promoting anything, because I'm not, but I don't make AI music yet. You listen, once I listen to your music, I'm totally just gonna like compete with you in it. I'm kidding. But okay, as long as it's public. I didn't know if it was normal. Like, hear me out. My parents, my aunt shares, since my parents know how to use YouTube, they share private videos with each other, right? Like recording, because my one of my family members are much more adept at recording things and commonly recording, so they are able to share moments through that, through like private channels, right? So that's kind of a cool thing to do, because not everyone has like a NAS filled with, you know, somewhere in the corner having redundancies and then piling all the recording things, and then still be able to like share with family members that are geographically far away. Yeah. The privacy thing comes up a lot. I really do understand, and it's more of a, it's part of the moderation story, in my opinion. When a problem exists and it's pushed to the brink, then there's a compensation, but oftentimes that compensation push even further back a little, and then it starts to normalize. You know, it's kind of like, oh, how far can we go, right? How far can we go in a scenario, and then when you cross a threshold, turns out the desired threshold is back here. So then there's a reaction, a response to that, and it often goes slightly past this point, right? Then this is the threshold. But then they find the desired threshold to be like somewhere here. And then a C response. And I feel like this is how humanity operates with the pace of technology, in my opinion. So eventually we'll get into a middle ground, right? A middle ground. And that's, right now, I feel like we're in phase B, for the privacy versus accuracy. This is one of the dualities, in my opinion, about automated computational stuff now. And it's, you might be thinking, well, this is a new thing, right? You're like, oh, like on this is unprecedented. That's not true. Science has always, in my opinion, as for me, for the life, my 30 years of life, science had this problem. And that's like the disclosure of all information in order to promote accuracy. The accessibility of this disclosure of this information is a privilege. And because of the privilege, most of the time the accuracy is compromised. Be it patient data, volunteer things, methodology, proprietary information. You might be thinking like, and I'm still talking about academia. Some of this, most people, when they're thinking about examples of what I just described, they're thinking about industry. Despite academia, and I still think academia is one of the gold standards in terms of compromise, right? We think about public domain, right? Publications. When you publish something, it is to the most accurate of your ability, and it's free use, right? That's what academia stood for. Now, despite all of that, it still exists. The privacy concerns, the disclosure, because accuracy means traceability and also accountability. So whenever you have like a dilemma of moral concerns and accuracy, you can make an attack on traceability and accountability. Because if you're saying you want this to be private, it's like, so what's so private that you don't want it to be traceable, right? Or do you fear of accountability? Now, when it comes to science, academia has often pride on the idea that there is accuracy because of transparency, right? Transparency of the information. But then it can get into a conflict of privacy. And that's tough, right? Because accountability is wildly correlated with the accuracy of information. So whenever someone says, I prefer to be private, one also have to consider the behavioral stance on how important some of these things are, because these do give way. Privacy means less accuracy. That's one of the behavioral consequences of privacy, right? And that's not a bad or a good thing. I think it's a compromise and a balance that needs to be struck that may give humans time to normalize what are the benefits and what are the benefits you're willing to trade off in order to reach like a level of privacy you want, right? Level of privacy that's normalized to everyone. At least that's my current take on some of these topics. Let's see. At first, you were just checking the state of music AI generating since everything AI progresses so quickly. Yeah, definitely. Quickly and biasly as well, right? In order to emphasize it, the last like 20 or so minutes. And honestly, you were really impressed. In a way, you find it kind of scary for actual artists. I can see that. I don't think actual artists are scared, but they are more frustrated with the use and consent of their content. I think the artists themselves are not concerned due to the nature of what I was talking about, selective data management. In my opinion, how it also, provided that there's a default consent to the artist's work, artists hold the leverage. So regardless of the scary nature of what AI is capable of is based on the assumption that those artists have no leverage from their works. So it's only impressive because the artist was not consented to those, in my opinion. It's again the whole privacy and data usage and stuff. If an artist publishes something, is that data free use for large machine learning? Well, if it is me in a middle ground, then the scary nature of the art, like the machine work that you see, are either limited or privileged based on the source of the stuff. So I can kind of see it would be scary for artists from from an outside perspective. Like, I'm an outside perspective because I only casually do art. I've never monetized art in any way. I think the individuals who truly have that perception believe that their experience it requires leverage and compensation. So if they reach that compromise, then most of the tools are only as scary as the artist willing to sell their like material, right? You feel like the results is 90% of the quality of a professional music with 0.0% of the time and money investment. I disagree, but not in the sense of feelings. I disagree in the sense of experience, because a 0.1% of the time and money is not communicated in the work that you made. So like, for example, those who seek to not share, right? And the niche audience that do not have anything represented in the database would not find it a great investment or a representation of professional music. And oftentimes when you take it to the artists would probably not be satisfied with that. Now, for those who are data driven, right, those who are outside, who are like me, right, I'm someone who likes sufficiency, I would agree with you. I would feel the same way, that it captures a reasonable amount of the quality of the professional music. Like, for example, I've done something else that's related to mine. Instead of music, I actually looked at what do you call those? Like, you know how ChatGPT has been used to create text to speech. It's ChatGPT is being fed into text to speech, which is used to dub videos. And I often wondered, does ChatGPT sound like me? It's like, well, actually, ChatGPT, even in the early days, even before 4, like 4.0, ChatGPT's output sound like me in a specific voice case. And that's when I'm publishing things, because the large majority of the data set is based on publications. So if I'm doing this analytical diatribe on the balance between AI and privacy, I could imagine ChatGPT with a text-to-speech function would completely replace 90% of what I was going to say. The difference here, in my opinion, is despite its 90%, statistically, the other 10% is worth everything more than the 90%. So it's one of those things, like, if you're evaluating the quality, no, in my opinion, you're evaluating the quantity, because quality is not a representation of how much of the whole, is how much value is imparted in the thing that is missing. So oftentimes when someone says, like, and I would say the same, like, I go on Sora, right? I go on Sora, I type in a prompt, and it'll have this picture. This picture, it looks like it captures 90% of what's reflected in the most popular sample sets, right? But it is the 10% that makes someone want to buy it, because the 10% is the human component that's missing. So what is that human component? Is whatever human component that can still be leveraged without the unconsented harvesting of information. So what is that? Well, if I'm gonna be transparent. When it comes to video games and like social media platforms and stuff, it's not that 90% of quality that people think. It's the other 10% of jank and human aspect that ends up thriving. Like, if you say, I want to produce this thing, it's gonna look like very consistent quality consistency. But nowadays, I think there's a compensation for that. People don't look for that type of consistency. because oftentimes that also have a consistency of inconsistency, which is things like, you know, this game kind of feels like AI generated, or, you know, this, so it's creating, it's going like, it's coming back full circle when it comes to that. So when you think of AI music, right, like, oh, hey, this seems like AI music. It's very consistent. It does the job. I'm not paying for it. Because you're gonna say, when you're saying like you're scared for the artists, right? You're scared for the loss of business. I think it's a lose-lose situation too. Like I'm actually, maybe this is getting a little even worse. I think there's also desensitization that's happening, or as I quote some of the new aged boomers who speak some Gen Z. Most people's brains are cooked. Their impressions of creative pieces are cooked based on exactly how you feel and how I would feel about what is produced by AI generated stuff. Like, it's 90% of the quality is like, oh, it's perfectly sufficient. And so when you go and listen to someone else, you go to listen to someone who has 90%, and then that 10%, I think in the future, that 10% is all that matters. In fact, it happened with algorithms. It happened with iPhones. It happened with like videos, music. Now, the quality is the difference, not the sames. So whenever this happens in the future, that's what I feel. Like if I could be entirely wrong. So in another 2 years, we'd be like, no, you were wrong, Maku. It's like, I can't predict the future, but I want to offer a counterexample. When something is automated and things become the same and consistent, we talked about this in language learning all the time. A specific part of the human condition is that when things become same and consistent, they become boring and less enthusiastic. It becomes closed-minded, narrow-minded, and commonplace. So in no way do I think someone who is open-minded, of a creative capacity, would value the thing that is most consistently reproducible, but more about the nuances of the differences. So to me, I would say if an artist thinks that the 90% is what is really scary and that they have no future because of the consistent thing that's reproducible, I feel that artists may not necessarily have had enough experience with their creativity and artistry to understand that it's the thing that makes them different from the consistent that is what makes it art. Because it's not a science anymore, or quote unquote a science in the layman's term. So I actually think that when AI music becomes incredibly consistent, the slop, right? The slop, as the new jargon goes, anything that becomes incredibly consistent as quickly as possible becomes the standard on which all of that stuff is no longer worth no longer part of the investment. So much like easy come, easy go, if it takes 0.0% one of the time and money for an investment to produce 90% of a consistent professional music, that stuff will eventually, by human condition, be viewed as cheap, not worth anything. And in the long run, those ones who are still doing creative work, it is the 10% that they spend most of their effort on. Because they themselves can also do the 90% of slop. And that's what I feel like would be the future of marketing. Like, not only would I think that, I think in the future, which is, it might be tomorrow, it might actually be in 2026. Slop has become a common thing now, right? Like, it's even a vernacular. Like, it's part of vernacular now. Like AI slop, music slop, art slop, right? I don't know, yap slop, stuff like that. Once it's identifiable, because it's so incredibly reproducible and with low effort, it is ubiquitous, right? It is immediately ubiquitous, practically overnight, like ubiquitous. So there's already a very strong selective behavioral bias against it. So it is becoming reflective of its lack of time and money investment. So in the future, it makes it actually, in my opinion, like for those open-minded people, right? For open-minded people, it actually makes it easier to stand out from it. So I don't really envy like businesses, like large tech companies and businesses who are putting all in on this automation process and hope that there isn't going to be a natural human condition response to how reproducible something is. Because if there's anything I can say that humans do incredibly well, is to see patterns. And I think, in my opinion, it's already happening now because the tech company is going to downsize. Most of those things are going to downsize, but not in the way that it is downsizing now. They're currently downsizing because they believe that all these automations are covering the essential tasks, the monotony task, right? But at some point, it's going to normalize and need to expand on how to capture the unique things, right? So then there would be a system, or there would be another expansion to incorporating that. So what happens? You need to fill those roles again, right? Because if you keep iterating on a singularity, right? If you keep iterating on a singularity, as in when I'm saying singularity, on a single pool, or you're going to attempt to try to differentiate the pool to stay competitive. So now you're going to have people fighting for privilege, as in, hey, our data set is built on this and it removes this, so it makes our data set different from that data set. So now our AI behaves differently from that AI. That no longer produces the singularity that everyone thinks is going to happen, which is, oh, if AI captures 90% of all music, then that's what people will love most of all. No, in fact, in my opinion, right now, they're competing to make them selectively different already, because humans will be humans. Once they see some pattern that's reproducibly repetitious, that becomes common day, mundane, and less interesting. You don't have to be closed-minded. You don't have to be open-minded and super international or promiscuous to understand that when you see something for a very long time, as an adult, not a kid. So hats off to all the parents and the people who are keeping kids exploring and whatnot, because I often worry about younger kids who get stuck into a funnel immediately and they no longer can expand, right? But for adults, the target audience like Gen Z, the audience with money and the spending power, without, like, older people tend to have stronger identities, so they already have their preferences and whatnot, so they can see and make decisions despite having popular representation, right? But younger adults, they're the target audience. If you see something rapidly reproducibly expand, they become old and mundane very quickly. Now the thing is, because they become old and mundane rapidly, iterations will happen on them, right? So then you get iterations. So now what will be the future of things? I can only imagine, like, music is like 90% professional, it's like whatnot, and then they would add like random notes in the other 10%, like throughout the song. That would become like the artist's MO or something. And when I mean random, I mean unique to the artist. So it's already happening now where artwork is done in a promiscuous way, where the artwork adds artifacts of, or not artifacts, but their incentives of their particular identifying mark on a piece of work that would, if incorporated into a database, would be drowned out by large data. If you have a large data set, those nuances show up even more. So now, because of automation, in my opinion, artists, creators can use that to their advantage. You can easily be a statistical outlier now because the data is so consistent. So how do you stick out from an AI generated artwork? That's something that isn't currently represented by the database. And you might be thinking, well, what happens if the database adjusts to that? It can't, because the data is based on statistical power. So the idiosyncrasies of humans may likely be accentuated in the future with the hyper optimization of AI generating things. I mean, a good science fiction show will probably be a great place to start on how eventually when things get automated, there's often a counter argument for how humans will seek to preserve their humanity as opposed to appreciate the comforts and convenience of automation, right? That's just my 2 cents on that. But you really like my point about the drawback of privacy or how it's not necessarily properly handled in statistics. I think that's a big concern. In Belgium, there's a strong privacy culture. I can imagine. I think Europe in general, if I had to generalize something, I think Europe has a very excellent concern because it's in a way the information is accessible in an unprecedented way. I agree, right? So accountability is not reflected both ways. I think because of the lack of accountability, there can't be trust. Trust is when you say in Belgium there's a strong privacy culture, I honestly, from a behavioral standpoint, I think of it more like in Belgium there's a strong trust requirement, right? Privacy is an element of balancing trust, in my opinion. So when that trust is not good enough, there's an element of privacy concerns. And that is very reflective in who is pushing privacy, because it's already really tough. Geopolitics is already tough for trust. You can probably cite a ton of technological trust problems already. And oftentimes at the center of it would be privacy versus enterprising. And it's tough to be trusting with privacy if there's a lack of measures to hold accountability for both sides. The handlers and the people who have access to the information, it's kind of like doctor-patient confidentiality. You're only as good as your trust and your reputation. So people won't trust you if you violate confidentiality. And that confidentiality is a way to hold accountability for both sides on how information is shared and used, right? And there's no handshake right now, in my opinion. Like a TOS is not a great handshake. With all due respect to people who write terms of service and work in laws and stuff, I don't think when it comes to the interface of a consumer and a large tech body or an organization that there is a proper handshake between trusting with confidence that information is used in best interest, right? Patient doctor confidentiality, there's an already agreed element of dependency between the two, right? You have to be transparent. And even then, I'm going to tell you now, if you watch just watch House MD. I know it's a dramatization, but despite having a confidentiality clause, a immediate codependency between doctors and patients, transparency is still one of the reasons that block proper diagnoses and problems, because there's also interfaces of other violations of confidentiality, like insurance policies and other business related things that can create conflicts of interest due to the exchange of private information. And like, doesn't have to go on the internet. We can talk about medical records. I don't work in the medical field, and I'm a colloquial layman when it comes to how information is handled. And yet you can logically connect and see that despite even having medical life and death situations, privacy, health records, confidentiality between even individual people is already hard to uphold. There's a constant trade-off between privacy and how that information is being used. So in my opinion, yeah, it was bound to happen. I think the first time I thought about privacy and confidentiality was the first time the internet was available. Actually, probably when Facebook was available. The moment Facebook hit the market, and this is not hit the market as in for everyone. Facebook started with only high school and only college stuff. When that started, that's when I started thinking about all of this. Like, my first thought is, man, I wonder when they're going to tackle the whole privacy versus accessibility question. And I mean, to this day, that dialogue, that narrative has evolved because, you know, I'm a little bit wiser, I'm older, and technology has spiraled. By the way, Facebook was when I was 19. So it's been almost 20 years. Yes. I'll be 39 next year, so it's been 20 years since this narrative has been playing out, in my opinion. And honestly, some thought in my teenage mind was like, I don't understand the world well enough. It's probably going to be way different. And here I am at 38 years of age, and it's pretty remarkably similar to how I imagine it. If only I wrote a science fiction book about it, huh? You know what I mean? I could have been one of those like Black Mirror writers or something. I'm kidding. But maybe another life, another day. Another lifetime, another timeline. Let's see. The scary part is that I think pretty soon, or even already now, it won't be possible for a random person to identify AI music. I kind of disagree with that, but hear me out. It's because of the minority voice phenomenon. You need either good musical knowledge or users of dedicated code. I think it can indeed push artists to be even more creative and stand out, but in any case, it's still increased competition for people's time, attention, money. I disagree on both of those fronts. Right now is hard. Right now is hard because there's no standard. Or there's a lack of clear standard. But then once it's standardized, and the thing about AI is unprecedented, it gets standardized almost immediately. So the thing that makes AI different now, that artists, so if you're viewing, like, I don't know if you're still here, but if you're viewing AI in the sense that AI is equivalent to how humans adapt, right? If they're equivalent to how humans adapt to standardization, I disagree, because this is the crux of what I'm trying to say. AI is incredibly standardized. It standardizes almost immediately, like maybe like 1 month. Now, the thing about standardization is then humans have a clear path to differentiate. AI right now, the way it's built is not deliberately to differentiate. Like, it's not designed at the moment. Maybe in the future, I don't know, maybe they can produce a facsimile of it. But AI is built on consistency. So you're reaching for a convergence of products. But the thing is, when you say the scary part is that random people won't be able to identify AI music now, I think that's untrue in the future. It becomes less and less true for the future, and it's already happening now. Is that because AI is consistent and is built on converging data, more and more humans resonate and echo how to identify AI. Now, you might be thinking, oh, they might not be accurately identifying AI. Oh, that's certainly true. But the thing is, they're going to unify and unionize being anti-AI for creative purposes. And what they're going to do is, because it's so deliberately consistent, is that there's a clear path to differentiate. And I spelled clear in a really weird way. And then when you say it pushes artists to be even more creative and stand out and reach for their time, to me, there's a silver lining in this. I actually think it's going to push artists, definitely, to spend more time and attention. But one thing that this is trying to equate for is, I think it's actually going to be less effort as well. So yeah, time, attention, money would kind of lead to the idea of effort, right? The effort you're putting. But actually money goes down, attention goes down, and time goes down when you have a precise target. So it's kind of like how do you beat a well-oiled machine? How do you beat a well-oiled machine? You analyze it. It's well-oiled. It's consistent. A consistent target is a lot easier than an unpredictable target. And what's even more antagonistic, like what would exaggerate this even more, is an easier target that's easy to do makes it an even more easy target. It's kind of like saying, which species do you want to fight? Species A, that's completely homogeneous, or species B, that's nearly entirely heterozygous or heterogeneous. I think most of the time when it comes to how humans need to take their thing, the easier target is the one that's homogeneous. I mean, you don't have to be human. You could be a virus instead. Or you can be most things in biology. The easiest targets that require the least amount of time and attention and money and effort to defeat and win is the one that has the most recognizable patterns and consistencies. Because humans are good at that, in my opinion. So I don't think it's as scary as it sounds. I actually think there's a really, not like guaranteed, but there might be an argument for it becoming even easier. And what happens is businesses will suffer for that. Or may suffer for that. So early adopters and will likely have to adapt to this. And I think it's already happening now. What is one of the most classical trends of information that is a great way to make content now? How to identify AI music. How to identify AI art. How do I identify slop? You put slop in your content and then start hammering out the details. The reason why it can be manufactured just as fast as AI is maturing is because AI is incredibly consistent. It's so consistent that you can make very, very low effort ways to identify what AI is. In fact, nowadays people sell products identifying AI. Like literally there are millions of million-dollar industry, probably at least $1 million industry now, on making tools to select out AI products. Actually, many businesses and competing tech startups and stuff do that intentionally as part of their selling target. Like, hey, we have a platform for artists and we don't welcome AI music. And you might be thinking, well, then how will they know what is AI music and pass off as AI music? Well, AI music is very consistent. It's very convergent. So you can automate the automated. You can automate telling signatures of an automation process. Humans are supposed to not have that type of consistency, right? So oftentimes, like the way I'm talking about this, I'm not consistent with the way I'm talking right now because I'm bouncing between anecdotes and I'm creating threads and loops that are inefficient. However, if you go and type in ChatGPT, can someone explain to me the duality between a homogeneous target and a heterogeneous target for like genetic fitness? It would be very difficult to reproduce that. But I can tell you they can still do it though. ChatGPT can still give you a very cogent, precise, analytical approach that is super consistent on how to explain the dichotomy that can occur between a homogeneous target and a heterogeneous target. The thing is, can you tell if it's AI or not? And I would say reproducibly, if I were in the market to make content, I could like take up the sample size. There's plenty of sample size for it. You can even bootstrap. You can get ChatGPT to bootstrap through the process of presenting a human related conditional take on how to identify a converging process versus a divergent process or a noisy process. And that to me, I think it's the future of where business is going to go. That is when it comes to the AI space, I think right now, probably the big giants and tech giants have to consider the idea that how quickly humans have normalized backtalking. Now you want to make me push the AI generator to their limits to see how creative, not consistent you can get. Yeah, exactly. But to be fair, your goal is to have fun, not to really demonetize. But hear me out. Hear me out. That is where I think it's gonna go for creators, Gecko. And you know what happens when that happens? AI ceases to be itself. AI ceases to be consistent, Gecko. So what I mean by that is, you know, like a sci-fi movie, right? Or like an episode of Black Mirror or the show Humans. AI ceases to be AI. It becomes closer and closer to humanity. So when it gets closer, when you start emphasizing and getting pushed to create noise in a system that was designed not to have noise, you no longer have standardization. Standards go out the window. So what happens then? You end up back in the first place. You end up having humans using a tool, trying to differentiate from each other at a different normalized level of output that can then be maximized again. So now you're going to have the future of the things. Now everyone is AI aided, but they're still aiming to compete for creativity as opposed to consistency. That's at least my 5-year take on it. It's going to get to the point where humans are still the people who want to differentiate after it forms a standard. Now, how does business adjust to constant trends? I don't know. Like what I mean is this also increases certain things. Trends are going to accelerate. They're going to come and go, up and down really rapidly, right? because low effort, right? Low effort, low time. But at some point, this will then become high effort and high time, right? It will just keep increasing. Exactly why an AI generator would then be pushed to the limit. But the thing is, then it'll go through an optimization, like a refinement period again, and then it'll come back up to high level. But in the long run, I think humans are still humans. One thing is still foundational to humans. When they converge, when humans converge, it leads also to vulnerability. Well, it can be seen as vulnerability, right? And what I mean from the vulnerability standpoint is opportunities. I can give you one example. It's because of a movie that Fictitious asked me to, like, shared with me that he watched, and that's Founder. Or I think it's called The Founder. And it was about the story of how McDonald's, like, it was a dramatization about McDonald's. McDonald's started with efficiency. Efficiency only reaches so much until differentiation became its fallback. So then it's going to have to differentiate again. And then hit for efficiency. Differentiate. Efficiency. I think as long as the world is occupied in the Anthropocene, right, in human, is shaped human, most tools will have to go through iteration and optimization. So, like, I mean, standardization, then optimization, right? Then standardization, then optimization. And we're getting close to iteration. And, like, you know, optimization, iteration, refinement. We're getting close to that now, where most efforts are placed, you know? Plus, you love Nick Offerman. Oh, yeah, yeah. It's awesome. I love this movie, by the way. This movie was fantastic. It showed how, like, it's exactly what's happening with the AI. Oh, you know what? Hot take. In another 4 years, I'm gonna say 4 years, the person who wrote The Founder, like this movie type of format, there's gonna be one on the AI market. I think there's gonna be one on the AI market. It's where there was a noble idea. They were trying to make things incredibly efficient. Then a businessman, I don't know if you know about the founding of McDonald's, but then a businessman seek to expand and create standardization. And the moment it created standardization, it no longer reflects the uniqueness of the process anymore. And when the uniqueness of the process disappears, it becomes an easy target. And what happens is people then it innovates on that easy target. And right now, fast food, I was talking about this digression. Fast food fast food industry is coming to a slump right now because fine dining, well, we're going to put quotes in fine dining. Fine dining is getting a resurgence because fine dining creates noise and spuriousness and trust right now. But at some point, that might become the social norm, and then fast food will come into it, because before the fast food industry, it was fine dining. At least in the United States. This is McDonald's we're talking about, so it's in the context of the United States. But prior to it, fine dining was the social norm. And then this idea, this concept was very novel. And then it got expanded and standardized, and is no longer novel anymore. So it can be revisiting an old thing. It could be revisiting an entirely new thing, or a spin of an old thing. But in my opinion, ignoring how humans interact, like generationally, is also can be a business oversight, unless it leads to a unprecedented outcome. But I don't think music, and like human tasks have changed in unprecedented way. At least in my opinion. I would say 60-40. 60%, I don't think those human tasks have changed. So it's going to iterate on itself. It's going to end up iterating on itself. And I look forward to seeing how people get creative in that situation. Can I identify AI stuff that's outside my specialization? I can't. But I can tell you who can. Or who can help me. Because that's all the rage right now. That's a really heavy, high producing. In fact, I can probably tell you which service you could use to avoid AI content right now. Because as fast as AI is going up, the distinction factor, the ones that are attacking the standardization, are already starting up their counter, making money, obviously, fueled by money. So in the future, much like McDonald's, right? You could say like, we'll pick like diner A, right? Fine dining A. There's no fast food here. How do you know what fast food is? Standardization. It's easier, in my opinion. In human condition, it's generally always 90% of the time easier when your target is standardized. And AI is standardized until it is not, right? For now, AI is standardized. So in the future, it might not be standardized. And if it's not standardized, then you can no longer say 90% of AI music captures something, because you don't know what that is anymore. So if you're going to go back and push the AI generator to their limits to see how creative they are, then it no longer captures 90% of music. Because now you're deliberately pushing it to be human. You're seeking to break the consistency in order, like, creativity is antagonistic. Trying to achieve creativity is antagonistic to standardization. It's literally what in my opinion, is both literally and figuratively what creativity is to not be standard. So if you're creative, you're trying to do something that isn't the standard, and then trying to make it a standard. And that's why I find this really funny. Or I find I don't want to, I hope I didn't hurt anyone's feelings and I'm gonna like regret this in the future or when no, I just think this is really healthy for humans. Like, this type of interaction is different from, outside the greed and the profiteering and stuff, but this type of interaction is so much more human, harmoniously self-pushing than, I'm gonna share a very dark example, than trying to blow each other up. And that's kind of, what this kind of reminds me of? This kind of reminds me of the Olympics. That's what, in my opinion, this is kind of reflective of. And I think it's endearing. Like, humans constantly racing against each other to try to, like, innovate, look at standardization, innovate, standardization. Like, that is pleasant, in my opinion. So I'm talking about this from a very, like, man, humans are awesome. But then, if you step out of this territory, the reason why I have rosy colors about this type of thing is this is part of the creative process. We're talking about redefining, renovating, and reestablishing how human creativity is being done and used. If you step outside, there's still things like climate change, energy consumption, food, footprints, our dying planets, and wars, limited resources, those things, not as much. So I didn't want to put it on a damper. I just wanted to sober up a little. So this is fun. So I hope no one is. I really do hope that I didn't trivialize anyone's like passion or job or occupation, because I do understand that being scared is a thing, and you can embrace fear as fuel to preservation, but it is also a great way to look at what you can do. And I'm more like really biased towards what you can do. You really need to get some sleep, but thanks for the great convo digression. It's fun and thought-provoking at the same time. I'll try to tune in again in the near this. No obligations, and I will not going to lie, I'm probably just gonna listen to your music all evening. It better be good, Gecko. You better have me fooled. I'm expecting being fooled, Gecko. I'm telling you. In any case, your presence and your content is really refreshing on both for the content itself and digression. Well, I appreciate the kind words. I'm expecting you better have some synth, like space synth soundscape in there, and some lo-fi. Wait. Hold up, Gecko. Do you have an example of a lo-fi? Maybe something like math rock. Something Taylor Swifty. And maybe some synths, some synth things, and possibly like drone, something with drone in it. I'm expecting a whole I'm expecting a whole album here. I'm expecting Gecko music producer, indie music producer level of stuff. Okay, I'm kidding, obviously, but I can't wait to listen to whatever it is that you have cooked up. Thanks again for the conversation. It was really wonderful. I kind of like went a little ham, but you work in this, and I love the idea that you also work in this. So it would be really awesome if in the future you're like throwing in your thing, like your points and whatnot, because I think it would make for a really wonderful discussion. You'll let me know if there was some fooling or none at all, but to be fair, I'm transparent about the use of AI in the video description. Yeah, by the way, just really quick, on YouTube, when you post a video, on the video's like little option thing, there's a place where you identify if it's AI generated or not. Every single video I ever post, I click on that no, because it reminds me that I could also use AI to do the thing. So one day, occasionally I might say yes, but I always answer that question, yes or no, because I do in fact anticipate in the future that this will normalize human behavior in either cheapening your content or increasing the value of your content. So I don't know if you noticed, but there's an option there. Just a heads up, when you're like posting on a public, there is a thing that is already there that is cool, and if you're transparent about it, I think that's a future proofing, quote unquote, a likely future proof for future credibility. Anyways, thank you. It's always a pleasure. We had to catch up somehow, we kind of missed a whole summer of digressions. All right. What the heck is this? Oh, no, wait. It's not a hole. Like just a hole. It's a thing. It's a food item, right? So it's like, what is the eel called? It's an eel. Anago. Nago. Yeah, take care. Take care, Gecko. Appreciate it.
Hue.
Wait. Okay.
自覚
Ikaku. Ikaku. What the Jikaku? もう少し会社員しての自覚 think so. Self-awareness. Heck, Chinese. Oh no. Oh no. It's gone. Oh wait. It's like Tsunagu, ne? Tsunagu.
つなぐ
Tsunagu. Tsunagu. Wa nani? Like to connect. Okay. It's not good. Something else. Or is it good? No, it's not good. But is it good? No. Wait. Oh no, okay. Tombstone. Headstone, mouth. Oh wait, the headstone. Cool. What is this? Individual? Oh. Something makes me raku. Dang it. K. And why is it K? No, I don't know why it's K. Taskate. Let's see. Oh, like model? Oh no, it's not. Heck. Yeah. Oh, is it like... It's like a passage of time or something. Okay. Okay.
手洗い
Yeah. Okay. It's not Rui. It's not Rui. It's a compliment to Rui. Shirui? I don't know. Oh, wait. Hold up. What the heck is heavy? Oh, right. Separate shoots. Something to do with seeds. Oh no. It deals with seeds. You just gotta make sure the seeds go in the right shoot. Heck. Heck. Ane? Ane.
種
Ane. Uh. What the tane? Oh wait, I already said it. Seed, right? Seed. Tane. I wrote something for this. A good tan. Oh, tan e. Oh man, I don't like e. What's another for ne? Nendroid? No, that's nen. What is ne? There's also ne for horse. That doesn't help. Necktie. Yeah, I want to go away from expressions. Expressions are not good. And it's used really often for kunyomi, which I don't like. Because it could be anywhere. Like, could be at the end following anything. So, and usually it doesn't support the mnemonic. So I don't like that, in my opinion. Ne. You only got ne. Oh well, I could remove taco and neck. We could combine tacos and neckties again. I'll come back to this. This one's kind of weak. He'll come back again as a burn item or something. That seems like a reasonable burn item. Something makes me want to type he. No. Uchu. Uchu.
宇宙
Uchu. What is this? Alien? Well, no. Oh, outer space. Outer space. And midair plus outer space. Ooh.
Kukan
Kukan. In between space? Space. Okay, sorry. Okay. Tail. Tail. Something makes me want to type like or oh. Okay. I know tail is gonna come up, and it's kind of like a kunyomi situation, but this is an onyomi situation. Like, oh, it's B. What? Oh wait, wrong language.
中 歌詞
Kashi. Okay.
寿司
Sushi. Oh, I just went for it. Ah! Alright. Oh. Okay. I went for it, and it failed.
音訓
Onkun pronunciation? Onkun tone? Wait. Oh no, Onkun. Oh yeah. Onkun. Yes. I mean, it does deal with pronunciation, but it's onyomi and kunyomi. Skit? Oops. Skit? What? Oh wait. Footwear. Skit? Wait. No.
履く
Skit.
なくなる
Wait, no. Nakudaru is something else. To... Oh no. It's kind of like phrasing it in a backwards way. Nakunaru. Nothing. I don't want to say it's something like it can't be helped. It's kind of like that. Or no way, it's not a problem. Heck. Not here. No, I think it's still like not to pass away per se, but to like be nothing. How do you be nothing? Oh, like to disappear? Like to be disappeared? How do you to be lost? Eat. Okay. Wife. Key? It's not key. It's not the coon. It's not Tsuma. Tsuma. Or Tsuma. Tsuma? Tsuma? What's the onyomi? Oh. Sai. Becky.
汽笛
Ah! Oh wait, steam whistle, not train whistle. I thought about a train though.
混ざる
Azaru. To be mixed in? To how is that not it? To get mixed without the in. Oh my goodness. Sure. That's not gen? Oh boy. Oh boy. Something makes me want to type cone. Oh, okay. Oh, it's incorrect. Cliff, son, and child. Oh. Unfortunately, I only remembered the Chinese one, which, that's kind of scary, actually. Ho, right? Ho. My recollection of Ho is how I know it was Atsu. That's a little disappointing.
動詞
Bullshit. What the heck is this? Righteousness? Okay.
自動詞
Bullshit. Transitive.
鼻の穴
Anano ana. Nose nostrils. Nose nostrils. Sorry. I'm a little bit loose today. I got to catch up with Gecko. It's nice. Although I kind of, oh man, I dominated the conversation. Anyways, we'll try not to do that. So, 両手万電は wait. Do you? Oh no. I almost feel like the first two are different. Like something like る because I don't think it's I don't think it's る番 yeah, I don't know. It's a little different because the first set is different, right? It's like latte. Ooh. So it's like 留守番電話
留守番電話
留守番電話留守番電話
名詞
名詞
反対
反対 confrontation, opposition, or explode, explosion. Okay.
若い
Okay. Whoops. Okay. Wait. Oh no. Wait. The heck? Oh, is it? Am I being a butt? Is it the other way around? No, this is probably like that's it. Or I'm drawing a blank. Oh wait. Hold up. What does this mean? It just means people, right? Oh, this is pluraling people. So like 人たち.
人たち
Yes, I knew that. Just kidding, I didn't, but I sort of knew it at first. We have... It's not harm, right? Or is it harm? That's still grain. With grain melt. I'm not doing so hot right now. Roof grain melt. No, that is harm. This is harm. And what's harm? I'm gonna say guide. Oops. Yeah, this is harm. Auto. Oh.
高等学校
Auto. Oko. Eh. Yush. Wait, I thought it was. Oh.
形容詞
Yush. Contain forms. Wait. Keiyoshi. Contains. Or just conjugation, actually. What? Keiyoshi. Form? I like, grammar? What? Oki wa oh, adjective.
しずしず
You just
借りて
Harite. That's borrow. And borrow hand. Just someone who's borrowing something. What do you say? Borrower? Okay.
穴場
Oh, not about.
Sararai.
Sararai. Enkiyo. Oh. Whoops.
天気予報
Enkiyo. Oh, we're back. We're finally back. I still don't know what. Oh, is it? Okay, it's Yumeya. What? No, Yumiya.
弓矢
And something about, I still don't know. Is it like whole? To make things whole? Selling words. Pretty sure that's words. How do you sell words? Oh, that's not selling words. Oh, wait. It's kind of like selling words. Like reading. That's reading. That's yo. So this is the doc thing, right? So it's like doksha
読者
or doksha. reader. I want to know what the heck is yo? Like, what do they do? You have to say what you're selling because people don't like to read. And what you're forced to read out loud to sell is the yo-yo instructions. Okay. Well, that's kind of that's kind of lackluster. Whoops. All right. So it was it was supposed to be a chill day, maybe like 40 minutes or something, but we squeezed in like a 2-hour discussion on it was kind of hot, like not that type of hot, like the stuff that I was talking about was fairly hot. I just want to be very mindful. I'm like reflecting on what I said. I just want to be mindful that most of the stuff that I said was conjecture, right? So if it doesn't come true, I'm excited. If it does come true, I'm excited. So I like these dialogues. I like talking about there is wonderful it's very healthy to spin narratives and exchanging narratives with the idea of trying to be open-minded, right? So it would be very fascinating to see either the stuff that I mentioned unfold, or maybe it doesn't unfold at all and I'm just barking up the wrong tree, right? So the future is certainly going to be here sooner than most people think. I like the reason the topic about AI, privacy, accuracy, data selection and stuff is, it feels like it changes literally in months, you know? And something about that fast pace, like I don't want to get caught up with like tech startups and whatnot. I think that's definitely a young person's thing. I mean, Gecko, Gecko is 35, but I don't know. I feel like he works in an industry that is made for like 20-year-olds. From my perspective, it's so tough. I can say a lot of things today, like on reflection, right? On observation, reflection, and conjecture. But I want to be very cognizant that I don't have skin in the game. So the stuff that I talk about, I really want to make sure that I'm not stepping on people's toes, because there are people's livelihoods, right? It's not my livelihood. So it's a really interesting topic though. How would you prepare for an incoming technological wave that may put your occupation and your skill and your motivation and behavior and your livelihood at stake? And oftentimes I'm way biased in trying to spin it to think of ways that, okay, well, what is almost foreseeably going to happen? What can you do about it? As opposed to sitting there and trying to spend a lot of effort defending it, right? And I totally understand that other people would defend it, but I feel like there are more people who defend it than seeing how to think one step ahead, or 2 steps ahead. Try to be ahead. And I think nowadays, if I had to decide on something that's related to that, I'd probably write on studying it, because standardization is fairly friendly to studying. Like, even this experience I have with WaniKani is pretty standardized at this point. SRS is, lack of a better word, SRS, the appeal and categorization of SRS has become standardized. And that goes without question. When I talk to like language learners and stuff, when they say SRS, they have some sort of archetype in mind, despite SRS existing in many capacities well before the internet. In fact, I practice SRS pretty much with most of my skills. I wouldn't be the person I am without SRS. Running, diets. In my opinion, if I wanted to be even more generalizing, habits is a form of SRS. How you understand how habits are formed, how you create environments to promote your habits or to disincentivize your habits, reinvigorate and couple rewards, commitments. That's SRS. But habits are a bigger part. SRS is one of the components or outputs or applications of understanding how to manage your habits. Yeah. And I think AI is very similar to that. Or my approach to understanding the impact of AI. Right. Okay, so capital. Gotta go to the bathroom. Capital, wedding, friends, mix, lifeguard, both. Greenhouse, impetus. So I reads. Gen. Gen. Yo. Gan. Trying to really absorb the characters here. Heck. Yo. No, kyo. Kyo. Mata. Kyo. One constantly takes longer. Kyo. So, su. So. So. Sho. I. Go. Then. Ko. Oh no, kan. That's it. Oh. I. An. So. I. In. You. Heck. Ka. Kyo. Ora. Alright. That's a wrap for WaniKani today. Good times, good times. Alright, folks. Wrap for the WaniKani session. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu, right? As always, feel free to follow along, pick up WaniKani for yourself, give it a try. And like today, I gotta catch up with Gecko. You're always welcome to come on by. I yap a lot. It's part of the generosity. I know some people might dislike the idea of doing a task and being interrupted in doing a task. I just want to reiterate the priority is not the studying. The priority is the discussions, digressions, and interactions. So the reason why I don't do most of that all the time is largely because of the type of discussions I have and the expectations or selection factors that I place on the type of discussion. And you know, the whole super long format live stream thing is not conducive to hot takes all around, right? So much like it's very difficult to produce short format conversations or short format truncated capture of these sessions, it makes my time feel important to me. How all of this discussion today started was the idea of time dilation, subjective time dilation versus subjective time contraction, right? Compression. And for myself, recording those moments, I often have this romantic thought that maybe one day I'll have a little one of my own, and so they can reflect upon some of these or look back. Like, I get to find what my old 38-year-old self is like. I don't have much records, much in the way of this type of record or legacy building before the age of 30. So a lot of that is I'm trying to capture and crystallize most of that. And I stand by what I said with Gecko. As one grows older, memory compresses. And when memory compresses, they feel, while time doesn't actually change, right? Like in a linear sense, the feeling of time does change. And when people become older, technology has offered a wonderful boon in how to record, categorize, journal for posterity and legacy building. So building this type of thing is the priority, and other people engaging with other people, talking about other people will make it eventually learning. Something like that is the utmost importance here. Not any one task or any one skill, whether you're experienced or not. I want to make it clear that anyone's welcome. It's fun to talk about most topics. Be in the moment, and if there's anything that can be a bit of a consolation to the compression that our memory feels a lot of times when it comes to passing time. The longer you live, the more you can touch people with your stories and experiences and bring them to the current day. And those stories then gain new life, right? And new time, and it's kept with you. So that's what the discussion was all about. And then about the AI and all that stuff, that's what we live in right now. That's how I spend when I watch something. That's how I increase the value of my time. Like, I kid you not, I had that AI story and stuff in my back pocket for some time now. I didn't have the time to share it with anyone because you kind of need a vehicle. I have a lot more stories than that. Generally speaking, though, I work on myself. I try to build stuff, and then one day, you come on by, share some story. Maybe we'll enter another 2 or 3 hour discussion. Thinking all the time, and you think a lot. You gotta put it somewhere, right? Always welcome. Until then, for those who are only interested in WaniKani, minasan mata ne. We'll see you guys later, right? Ite kurete arigato, right? Thanks for watching. I'm gonna get up, take a quick bathroom break, stretch a bit, for my Hanze Hero session. Thank you.